Principal Matters Podcast, episode 394. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, we're going to be talking about lessons from a first-year principal with my special guest, Tomas Macaluso. Tomas Macaluso is a dynamic first-year principal who began his journey in career technical education, CTE, where he served for 10 years as a CTE teacher. And in this role, Tomas taught business, graphic design, and IT. His major contribution was helping establish a signature academy available to students countywide. Transitioning into administration, Tomas served as a dean of students for a year, honing his leadership skills, and then progressed to an assistant principal position, a role that he held for 7 years. Notably, 4 of those years were at his current school, North Valleys High School in Reno, Nevada, where he now proudly serves as the principal. He is the past president of NACTE, Nevada Association of Career and Technical Education, and his diverse experience in various educational roles underpins his commitment to student success and educational excellence. He's also a longtime listener and friend of this podcast.
For sure.
Macaluso, welcome to Principal Matters Podcast. Why don't you fill in the gaps on that intro and tell listeners something else they may be surprised to know about you?
Well, hey, thank you so much. Actually, it was because of listening to this podcast that I ended up getting, while I was the president of NACTE, getting Will to come out and be our keynote speaker, and absolutely rocked it. And to this day, it's still one of the, for the people who've gone year after year, Will's work is still one of the things that I still hear about. And that was, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe more like 7. So, no, super big fan. Something that everybody would need to know about me that they may not is I have a serious Disney issue. Like I might need some kind of counseling or something. But the good part is that has trickled its way into my leadership as well. And I've actually taken, and Disney just took these down, but I've actually taken every online course that the Disney Institute offered. They offer corporate professional development. And I took all of the courses throughout COVID and up until maybe not this last school year, but the year prior. And so I've done a ton of work with them, and now they took it all down. You have to actually now go back to Florida to be able to take those courses. So
I did not know that. And Tomas, because this podcast is something that we share as an audio, I get the privilege of beaming into your office and seeing behind you just rows and rows of Marvel and I'm going to guess Disney characters.
There's some Batman stuff.
Oh man, you got all kinds of cool.
I have a bat signal in my office, which you can't see at the moment, but it's really important to me for students to be able to come in here and really see someone they can immediately relate to. And I'm just as much of a big kid as they are. And so, like that connection is really something that I value as a leader and that I cherish. And if you were in my office, we'd be sitting at a conference table that a student painted as an APR project in 2014. And it's all Batman villains, and the whole edge of the table is surrounded with all of the logos of the evolution of Batman over time. And it's a really cherished piece. It's obviously a big conversation starter when you come in here, but it's really fun to be able to tell people a student made that for me. So,
Tomas, what I love about you is how you bring yourself to your work. And ever since the chance that we got to know each other several years ago, when I got to come out to Nevada and be with you at that conference, and then we've stayed connected through all of these transitions. And so, titling this program Lessons from a First Year Principal is something that only a principal would understand how limited that title is. Because you've had years, almost 20 years of experience as an educator informing you as you stepped into this new role. And before we dive into the dynamics of your leadership work, I want to ask you first about your school. Tell us some of the insights about your school and what are some of the aspects of student and teacher achievement that you're most proud of?
So what I will tell you is as every principal is going to come on and say they work at the best school and wherever they are. But I will tell you we are a hidden gem, and we're hidden in the sense that I think for the longest time, this particular school had a very negative connotation. So when you would tell people you worked at North Valley High School, their response would be, oh. And so one of the things that's been really important to me from the moment I got here, as someone who believes you always got to make a place better than when you found it, we got to not just change it in the building, but really change that conversation with the community, that this is the place to be. And so one of the things that's kind of been the hallmark of me taking over, because prior to the 4 years that I was here, I was over discipline and activities, which is the really kind of the ultimate mix of the two extremes, right? The kids who maybe are struggling to be connected to school, and the kids who are extremely connected to school and trying to navigate those edges. But in taking over, the real big piece for me that I've been working on is building culture. And so one of the things we have spent the entire first half of this school year really talking about building the culture that we want here, and not just building it for the students within the building, but building it in a broader sense for the community, so they can really see that the culture we have here is really something special, and the things that we are doing here are special. And so we have 4 pillars that ultimately underpin the culture that we are building. And those 4 pillars are the 4 things that guide all of the work we do. And so in working with my department leaders, and working with my teachers, and working with my leadership students, in working just with students in general, the goal is to reference one of those 4 things and find what avenue that takes us down, because that presents the answer for what we're trying to do. And if you were to hear those 4 things, very little of them have to do with what people would consider traditional, like, school leadership. So
give us your 4 pillars, Tomas.
So pillar number 1 is take care of each other, and that's the most important one. We have to do that above everything else. We have to take care of each other adults wise, we have to take care of each other student wise, we have to take care of each other back and forth. So taking care of each other is super important. Pillar number 2 is setting high expectations. It's really important to me that we, with our teachers, get them to really push themselves and really drive and really grow. It's also really important that we get the kids to see that if they set high expectations for themselves, they can achieve those. Pillar number 3, connect students to school. So we have a very high chronic absenteeism rate. It's hovering up in the high 20s, getting close. And we have to win that battle, and we only win it by making this a place people want to be. And the last pillar, pillar number 4, is if you're not growing anywhere, you're not going anywhere. And so really trying to get kids to understand that growth is constant, growth is consistent. Just because this is my 19th year as an educator doesn't mean I don't still have work to do, and I can't still get better, and I can't still learn and still grow. So I'm trying to instill that in them as well. So those 4 things are the 4 things that guide all of the work that happens in this building.
I love that. Take care of each other, set high expectations, connect students to school, and if you're not growing, you're not going anywhere.
Yep.
That so reminds me, Tomas, of the kind of focus that a great classroom has to have, so that everything that you do is based on those values. And I love it that those aren't the traditional statements that you're going to hear when you look at the wall of a school or at the website of a school, because I'm going to guess that those 4 pillars are values that you and your teachers have collaboratively shared.
Yeah, well, and even, when I came here, like, I was blown away when I first showed up as an assistant principal at just how above and beyond the teachers in this building go to help students find success, and how much they work to open doors for kids. And, this is we have a really weird dynamic, because we have quite a bit of our student population lives in very low socioeconomic circumstances. We have government housing in our particular part of the zone. We also have the largest geographic space in our county that we serve. But we also have families that live on $1 million ranches. And so, like, we really get the edges and not a lot in the middle. And so it's really about finding ways to help connect all of those kids, because there are a handful of valleys out here that we serve, hence North Valleys. And the only thing all those valleys have in common, whether it's politically, socioeconomically, whatever, is this place. And so really making school, if we can get it to a point where we collectively all understand each other and we really build a community within the building, my hope is that that leaches out into the broader community out here and gets people in these valleys to see that they have a lot more in common than they think they do. So
let's sit here for just a moment because context is so important. So first of all, two questions. One, what's your average student population? And two, what's the size of that geographic area that North Valleys is serving?
The second one's going to be hard for me
to
give you, but it's vast. I mean, for me to get to the furthest edge of where we are right now, even using a freeway, I'm probably 25 to 30 minutes, if not more, from the very edge of this zone. We have 29 school buses that bring students in. 87% of the kids ride a bus here. Our average student population is about 2,400. So we are also the largest and most diverse school in Washoe County. And so as you're putting all those pieces together, what are things that, we've got to think about ways that we can build a family environment out of a very desperate set of pieces. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're serving a community of 2,400 students, but in a geographic area that's vast. I mean, to think about that number of buses, that number of students, that number of district territory that you're covering that represent, I'm sure, both condensed population areas, large open areas. There's just so much variety there. Thanks for that context, Tomas.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that I want to ask you next, because, and one of the things I love about the show the most is it gives me a chance to find out the answers to my own curiosities. And even though you and I have stayed connected, I haven't had a chance to really probe with you in this new role. So that's one of the reasons we set up these conversations, because I wanted to reflect with you, but I wanted to do it with the audience as well. So here we are. We're recording this about midway through the year, but this will actually be coming out sometime closer to May or June. And so just so you know, because of how far
because of your schedule.
Right. But I want you to reflect for just a minute on how your past roles as an assistant principal, as a dean, as a teacher, what lessons have you learned that have been instrumental in that transitioning into the role as principal?
So I think one of the most impactful things for me is really looking at the time I spent in the classroom as a career and tech ed teacher. So the one piece you didn't know is all of my family are teachers. Both my parents, aunts, uncles, everybody, like a good Italian, like this is the family business. And so I joined the family business, but I'm the first one of them to do secondary and also the first one to be an administrator. But that time in the classroom, especially with something like career and tech ed, because I may be the only thing getting a kid to come to school. When I was teaching graphic design, there were kids who came for graphic design. And the thing that's hard, and the thing that I've now pulled forward to getting to work with both my art department and all of my elective teachers, but also with my career and tech ed department, is that kid may only be in your room for you because this is the only class during the day they really enjoy, and this is what gets them to school. But the key is, if they don't pass those other courses, they lose the one carrot that's keeping them in the building. And so that's why Pillar 3 is connecting students to school. And that's why that work is so important, because even though I taught graphic design, I can't tell you the number of times I sat down with a kid and was working on algebra, or I was helping them do their government homework, or I was helping them deal with US history or looking at science, just because they were struggling and they needed that pick-me-up. I'm trying to get that idea of being that caring individual for a specific person, and maybe being the only positive thing that happens in their day, and the only person they really feel is connected to them and may have some ownership with them, over that relationship. I'm trying to instill that in the people here. And the best part is when I came here 5 years ago now, they were already doing a bunch of that. They just didn't. I think the piece that I'm trying to get them to do now is leverage that to start really getting the ball rolling, because they do it in small pockets, but we got to do it collectively. So starting with the teacher stuff, I know the value of those things, and I know what that is. I think one of the biggest and most important lessons that I've just learned from kind of my tenure of going through the ranks is just being as visible as possible. It's really important to me to be available. It's really important for people to see me and see me out and about leading. And it's really because I can't take care of people if I'm not out where stuff's happening, right? Like that's impossible. And so as a dean, I made it a point to be as visible as possible. As an assistant principal, I was always as visible as possible. And the thing that I joke with my administrative team, who one of my assistant principals, who's like my right hand, she'd come up through the ranks with me. And the three other assistant principals are all in their first year as well. And they were all a dean of students for me at some point. So they were people who worked with me. So they all understand my particular brand of leadership. But what they realize is the most important part of any job description as you become an administrator is other duties as assigned. And so I do my best to spend 99% of my day managing or dealing with other duties as assigned, than with the actual formal things that may live within, the formal job description. Because so much of that's how you build that relationship and build that rapport and make those connections, is when people see you out there, on a ladder hanging up a thing because it needed to be hung up, and not because you gave that to somebody else whose job that is.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Everyone talks about the power of data-driven instruction, but how do you actually get the right insights and know the best next steps? The secret is IXL. IXL helps you easily assess performance and determines the best path forward for each student. Whether you need data for benchmarking or intervention planning, IXL can do it all. And IXL doesn't stop at assessments. It also provides you with everything else your school needs, from a standards-aligned K-12 curriculum to actionable analytics. IXL's online learning and teaching platform is research proven to improve student outcomes and is used by 95 of the top 100 U.S. school districts. If you also want to start driving real progress, get started today at ixl.com/PM. Are you ready for a tool that can help you elevate engagement and foster a culture of care and connection within your organization while also saving you time? Introducing Libra, your gateway to turning those culture-building insights into action. Discover how Libra transforms the way you engage with your team. Imagine integrating all your engagement efforts with platforms like Outlook or Gmail into one seamless experience. With Libra, you focus on people, not software. Celebrate the achievements that make your team unique, from personal milestones to professional accomplishments. Ensure you and your team have the means to meet their connection goals, fostering a workplace where everyone feels valued and understood. Don't let another day pass where engagement is just another item on your to-do list. With Libra, embark on a journey to increase efficiency, improve engagement, and cultivate a caring workplace. Ready to see the difference? Request a demo today at librahq.com. That's LEBRAHQ.com, and take the first steps towards a workplace where everyone feels connected and cared for. Libra, where engagement meets genuine care. Man, Tomas, I'm going to pause here because you just said some really golden things. First, I love it how you said that a student may only be in your school for your room or your classroom as a teacher, but the whole school experience matters. And so as a teacher, you recognize that, man, I want this kid to find my class the place where they belong, but I also want them to be successful in every other class, because if they're not progressing. And applying that as a leader means recognizing that every experience that student's having matters. The second thing that you said that was just so powerful was the importance of visibility. And I don't think I've ever had anyone put it that way to me, which means that I focus the most on other duties as assigned. So that's a really unique way to recognize that some of the things that are the most overwhelming about leadership you're just wrapping your arms around it and saying, bring it, because that's the thing that's going to shape my connection to the people I'm serving, the people that I'm with, the visibility that I have with students and teachers. What would you
Well,
add to that?
so, one of the great examples, so one of the guys who's my assistant principal right now, when we first started working together, when I did a little stint as an interim assistant principal in a school for SIP students. And so it was just special education students in an alternative setting with whose behavior impacted their education to the point that they had to be in a separate school. And so him and I were working together. And what I talked to him about as he started to kind of feel out me and my philosophy on leadership, I gave him a great example. So one of the things that I try to do every day before lunch is I check my email real quick to see if there's any little situation that needs to happen. And so for a lot of years, since I have an IT background, people always ask me IT questions. And so I can't tell you the number of times before lunch I can email, hey, my printer's not working. And the reality is, if I can go up and fix that in 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes well spent. Because for that teacher, they might spend all day, man, if that printer just worked, I could get X, Y, and Z done, but they're not getting X, Y, and Z done because it threw them off of their game, just that the printer isn't working the way they need it to be working to be effective. So as a servant leader, I got to get in. If I can get in that room for 2 or 3 minutes during lunch and make that thing working for them, not just is that good for everyone, but the rapport and the relationship you build with the staff who report to you, they understand that you're really here to take care of each other, right? Like that's me exercising that pillar, right? And showing that those values matter, and they matter enough that no matter how important me doing hall duty is, or me answering email or doing something for the district, I had time to come to their room and solve their problem, which to them is a big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe isn't. But to them it is. And if I can get down there and fix it, I'm going to fix it.
What I like about that, Tomas, is, you're saying that if I can take just a few minutes to solve or respond to someone's need, that's going to in turn provide them with hours potentially of productivity, then it's time well spent. And so I know that begs the question. And so, even though you are in your first year as site principal, you've had a decade of admin experience. So
Sure.
it's going to beg the question that how do you prioritize when you know that you're constantly going to be having
Sure.
needs come to you, and you know that there are the things that you want to make sure are happening throughout your school? How do you prioritize that without feeling like you're stepping into burnout?
Sure. Well, one part is, from my perspective, like I'm somewhat of a workaholic. And so like those kind of interactions and those opportunities really drive me. And as someone who really, really embodies servant leadership and really is pushing for that all the time, like the opportunity to serve is the thing that I look forward to the most. So like it really feeds me more than burns me out. Now, all of that is only possible, though, if you have a great administrative team to get to work with. And so I am super blessed that I have the dream team. So the wonderful part about the 4 of them is they could do the whole job. Collectively as a group, they could manage all of the administrative needs of this building. So I really have put myself in a situation where I am the extra. And a lot of times that's not the circumstance. A lot of times when people build administrative teams, they may look to fill their own personal weaknesses or look to balance the team out in a specific way. And those things are great, but they still carry a lot of the weight of one of those components. I'm blessed in the sense that the 4 of them really hold the fort down and really could do the collective job. And so that I get to bounce around and really be the chief culture officer. So like that is my primary role. And because they've all worked with me, they all know that coming in. So they knew that was the balancing act of how this was going to work, right? I'm going to be out. I'm going to be about. I'm going to be doing things. I'm going to be engaging with teachers. I'm going to be engaging with students. I'm going to be available and involved. And If I want to get involved in athletics, I'm going to work with the athletic assistant principal and the AD and get involved in athletics. If I want to get involved with the, master scheduling, I'm going to come in and help do those things. Like I get to dabble in all those pieces, but I really have great people that I trust to do that work who are more than capable of doing that work. So, giving them the opportunity to support them, even the three who are brand new to their roles, and helping, I get to be coach in the sense of building them up to really like live that job, right? And really embody what those things, what those different duties may be and what those responsibilities look like, and how do you balance those in a way where we collectively have quite a bit of fun doing this work. So
There's so much I appreciate about that, Tomas, and I'll just respond with this. I mean, you're what I hear you saying is you find joy in serving and helping others, and that's only possible because you've built a strong team, and because of that strong team, then you're able to work in the areas of your expertise. And I like to say it this way, that there's no greater joy for a school or building leader than to be able to step away from their setting and watch it work without them. But that doesn't happen by accident.
no,
That is a purposeful, and you've already mentioned this a couple of different times, how the past relationships you had with these leaders in other settings built a lot of trust among you. You know each other's working strengths and weaknesses, and you've been able to structure your administrative duties in a way so that they can do what they're best at, and you're doing what you're best at too. Kudos. Now, I
thanks.
want to ask a follow-up question,
Sure.
because not all of my listeners are longtime members of the Principal Matters community, but you've been connecting with this content for a long time before you were even in school admin. So, what drew you to Principal Matters content, and how has it contributed to your own professional development as a school leader?
Sure. So I think so one of the interesting parts is this has always been my goal. Very early in my teaching career, I got my master's right away in admin with the intent to move up virtually immediately. And this seat was really the thing that I was like working toward. Like I wanted to be a principal. And then I got doing the work I was doing in career and tech ed, and it was the perfect. I'm so blessed and thankful that I spent that time in the classroom, because it's made me a much better, more effective leader long term. When I first started engaging with your content, the real thing I was hoping for was to just help me on that path of getting to this place. And so I was really looking for things to think about. Things like what am I missing in this conversation? Have I thought about this piece? How am I, how am I interacting with this particular situation? Or is there an area that maybe I need to think about some more? Maybe I'm not taking into consideration. We all have blind spots. And what was great about the content as I was coming up through the ranks is it was constantly providing me perspective to be able to think about, okay, what is it you're doing, and the real question of why are you doing those things? What are the pieces you're taking away from it? And so, I was really hungry to continue to learn and grow and to build my acumen. I tell my students all the time, like, pillar 4 is not a coincidence. Like, if you're not growing anywhere, you're not going anywhere is true. I read multiple vlogs every day. I listen to podcasts consistently. I'm constantly sharing that content. If I think there is some little nugget or some little pearl or some food for thought with my whole staff, like, hey, you should check this thing out, or hey, read this really interesting perspective on, whatever. Because I also want to model that. Like, now that I've made it to the place I want to be, now it's also about being the best person in this role I possibly can be. And I want to model that constant thirst to be better. You know what I mean?
I love that, Tomas. And I know there's a famous quote that I'm going to misquote right now that says that you are the result of the people that you spend the most time with. And I think some people will say you're the result of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Sure.
And I've thought about that quote several times, and there's 2 sides to that coin. One is that in education, we spend most of our time with kids. And so when you listen to that quote, you're like, well, are they the ones shaping me? And the answer is, well, yeah, of course they're shaping you. The other question is, well, who is shaping me how am I connecting with people who are intentionally shaping me to become what I want to become?
Sure.
And that's where you and I built a relationship, because when you invited me out to Nevada those years back when you were still in teaching, but you were looking at admin, you asked me to step in and talk about leadership. You were like,
Yeah.
bring it, bring the thing that I want to learn to this
Sure.
conference. And as a result, we had a whole room full of people that wanted to learn it too. And so sometimes what we want to become is the thing that we need to invite intentionally
Yeah.
into the conversation. And it's the same in my growth. I'm constantly looking for the voices and perspectives of others who are doing things that I admire so that I can become a better version of me too. Anything else you want to add to that?
The only thing I would say about that is I think it's really important, no matter what, I think people wait until they're in a leadership position to then dive into leading. But the reality is, as a classroom teacher, you lead that space and you lead the people sitting in front of you. And, you as a coach, you lead a team, and, all of that pyramid all starts at the top. One of the things that I've shared with my team is I can't impact all 2,400 students in this building directly, but my teachers can. And so if I take care of them, then they take care of the kids, and we're all better for it as a byproduct. And so I have to set the example of what I want that relationship to look like from their perspective with their students by modeling it what it looks like for me to them.
That's so good. If I take care of my teachers, they take care of our students. I want you to imagine you're sitting across the table with coffee with a fellow leader,
Okay.
and maybe this is someone stepping in new for the first time themselves. What ideas or principles would you emphasize for them that they need to keep in mind as they're stepping in, as they're wanting to continue to grow in their leadership
Sure.
journey?
So one of the things that I would do from the very beginning, because I've been on a crusade to do it, is I have a book that I share with every single person who has served underneath me. And now, as I sit in this role, I've been sharing it with the people above me. It's called Creating Magic. It's written by another thought leader whose podcast I used to listen to as well. His name is Lee Cockrell. Lee served as the executive vice president of Walt Disney World for a lot of years. And the funny part is, people immediately wonder why would you give a business book to someone? But the subtitle of the book, I think, says the real conversation. It's 10 common sense leadership strategies from a life at Disney. But what this really talks about is the concept of servant leadership, and really digging into what does it mean to be a servant leader, and how do you really utilize the power, the position, the circumstance that you're in to really get the best result. And that's one of the things that has drawn me. When I taught business, we studied leadership, we studied business culture all the time. We talk about Apple constantly, we talk about other companies, talk about Amazon, and we talked a lot about Disney. Part of it was, because I'm a fan, but there is no reason school can't be what Disneyland is. And so one of the things that in every interview, I would always tell them, so I would talk to them about, to get back to your question, because I digress, but I'm going to wrap it back up. I would give them that book. And I would say, look, really look at this. I've led book studies with it, check it out and get back to me. Because I'd love to talk to you more about how it applies to education, because there are pieces in there that are really critical in terms of understanding how to leverage what it is we do in the most positive and productive way and build the culture we want. 2, I would tell them that culture is king, because no matter what, we're not going to be able to get to quality tier 1 instruction. We're not going to be able to provide really dynamic instructional supports. We're not going to be able to do all these different things if we don't have a really rich culture that kids know when they're here, they're here, right? They're a part of this family. And that's why those pillars, none of those talk about tier 1 instruction. None of them say graduation rates. None of them are any of those traditional kind of educational topics, because if we can build a culture where we all agree from the beginning that me being in class and being engaged is me taking care of the teacher in front of me, is me setting a high expectation for myself, is me being connected to school, and is me exercising some idea around growth, we're probably doing okay. Then we can talk about tier 1 instruction, and we can talk about instructional strategies and student engagement and all the other things that are maybe more in the traditional vein, but we got to solve culture first, and you always got to solve it. And then I would wrap it all up by telling this leader, as you think about interviewing, and I did a lot of it. This is actually the 6th principal job that I interviewed for. Took me multiple years to get into the district's principal pool. I interviewed for multiple assistant principal jobs. It took me years to get into that pool. I've interviewed a lot. One, you're always going to end up exactly where you need to be, and that's really, really important. And so no matter how discouraging it might be along the way, you end up in the spot you're supposed to be in and getting to do the thing that you really are meant to do. But 2, you need a closer. And so when you get to the end of that interview and people are saying to you, do you have any questions, or is there anything you'd like to leave us? The answer has to be yes, and you have to have something dynamic that leaves that little nugget in their brain where they know you're the blank person. So I'm going to share my closer. Are you all right with that?
Oh, Tomas, I am so excited to hear it, because that was going to be my final question was, what are you going to say in your closing, and how can leaders stay connected with you? So bring us that closer.
Sure. So I'll bring you the closer, and then I'll answer the connected question. So the closer that I would always say is, of course, it's Disney related. I would say I really want school to be like Disneyland. I want to build an environment where students can't wait to get there. As soon as they're there, they love every second of it. And when they leave, all they're thinking about is how to get back. Because if we can do that work of making school like Disneyland, we will definitely be doing something to not just make this community better, or not just create a better environment, but to give these kids a real opportunity and a real chance to really make a difference in the world as they leave us. And so that was always my closure: school like Disneyland. And then the best part is, people always go, oh, he's the Disney guy. Oh, he was the Disney guy. In terms of people staying connected with me, I should tweet more, or X, or whatever we call it now. I should do more of that. I don't do it as much as I should, because I want to be in the building, interacting with the kids and and celebrating them and doing activities and having hallway parades where we celebrate students as they win state, and we march through the halls and play our fight song and make a big deal out of it. I want to do that kind of stuff. So I don't tweet as often as I should, but I should get better at that.
Well, Tomas, I'm going to place a link to your school website in
Awesome.
the show notes so that people can
And
see your school. They can check you out. They can find your email address.
yeah, and please reach out if anybody
Well-
has any questions. Like, my door is always open. There's no greater gift than serving, and I'm just because you don't work directly for me doesn't mean I'm not willing to share and have conversation and interact. So please, please, please.
Well, I want to say this as we wrap up today, from lessons from a first-year principal with Tomas Macaluso. And that's this: you brought it full circle. You began this conversation by sharing what might surprise people to know about you, is what a huge Disney fan you are. And you brought it full circle by explaining that when you share your values, you're trying to create a school that gives you the kind of experience where kids cannot wait to get back to school. And here's what I also appreciate about your story, Tomas, and we've known each other long enough that I can say this with some context. You've also been careful to wait and to search and to look for the kinds of schools that let you be you. So that value that you have, and you had several other interviews and opportunities, you found a school that said, we want that. Because you were saying, this is who I am, and this is what I want. If I'm going to lead a school, this is what you're going to get. You're going to walk in my office. You're going to see all my toys and craziness, but you're going to hear me talking about school experience from the perspective of my passions. I'm going to build my values around those. Our staff is going to build its pillars around those. We're going to create the kind of place that, as a person and an individual, matches my values. And I'm going to invite people to let me lead the way that matches me. And I'm going to invite them to lead and learn the way that matches them. And so, Tomas, congratulations.
Hey,
and I know
sir.
none of us ever arrive, quote unquote, but I just want to say
Sure.
congratulations on doing the things that I've watched you purposefully move toward for a very, very long time. And Principal Matters listeners, I just want to encourage you to reach out because just like you listen to the show because you want to grow, we also grow by connecting with others. And so if the conversations that we had today with Tomas ring clear to you, or you would love to collaborate with him, then reach out. I'll share his contact information in the show notes. But Tomas, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your ongoing investment in your own school community. And Principal Matters listeners, thank you for being who you are in the place where you are today, because what you do matters. We'll talk to you again soon. You'll find free resources like this one at williamdparker.com. Subscribe for our free weekly newsletter, which contains bonus material, and also check out the links for Grow Academies, Masterminds, Executive Coaching, and Keynote presentations from my books, as well as from Principal Matters Associates. You can find out more under our speakers tab at williamdparker.com. Thank you for learning together, and thank you for doing what matters.